It's quarterly wrap-up time, folks. You all know the drill. I found a bunch of indie games under 5 hours long, and now I'm gonna tell you why you should spend the weekend playing them. And this time around, I've got a nice little list of exciting, pulse-pounding bangers. Whether you're simply embracing your interaction movie star, feeling your feet leave the ground as you go way too high off that half-pipe, or perhaps are experiencing a more existential exhilaration in a high-stakes game of corporate sabotage, you're sure to get your pulse up. But it doesn't get any more thrilling than Soundodger 2. I haven't made a secret of how much I love Soundodger. I shout this game's praises anytime there's even the slightest justification to bring it up. It is a wildly unique game that mashes together bullet hells and rhythm games to create gorgeous levels where every frame is an abstract, mathematically powered painting. It's one of the best rhythm games ever made, and it's one of the most beautiful games ever. Full stop. So anyway, Soundodger 2 just came out. And god damn, it blows the original out of the water. Soundodger 2 kicks off with a remix of one of the original game's songs and is a tour de force showing off exactly all the new tricks this game is capable of. From lighting shenanigans to sudden adjustments of gravity to the game's trademark circle arena actually morphing. Coming from the relatively static original, the level of dynamism and style on display here is mind-blowing, and from there, the game just gets crazier. Every song gets its own defining mechanical twist that it plays with, in addition to special challenge levels that throw you into a completely different gauntlet that may as well be a second level. Right now, Soundodger 2 is pulling off new tricks at an insane rate that feels almost impossible to keep up with for a full game's runtime. But if it can somehow manage to do it, it'll be Game of the Year material. The game's still in early access and only has like 5 songs, so you'll blow through it pretty quick, but what's there is an excellent proof of concept that I really think is going to blossom into a truly incredible game. Giving it an actual review would be a little premature right now, but I couldn't be more excited about its prospects, and I will definitely be talking about it more in the future. Mini Motorways. Speaking of artful minimalism, Mini Motorways is a masterclass in that. The follow-up to the equally minimalist and clever Mini Metro, Motorways takes the same basic concept of trying to build an efficient transit system and applies it to cities' road systems around the world. The basic setup is that you've got color-coded homes and businesses, and if your road network can't get people from point A to B fast enough, well, that's game over. Try for a higher score next time. But underlying the calm, minimalist exterior is a game of sheer chaos. Your best attempts to future-proof your road network are always dashed by the game's random building placement filling in the space you purposely left open, whether it's a new district of greenhouses you suddenly have to somehow get across the entire city, or buildings popping up right next to your most congested road to create a new intersection, aka bottleneck. Inevitably, after a good 15 to 20 minutes, my roads and Mini Motorways always devolve into a hopeless rat's nest, and often by the time problems start arising, it's too late to do much about them. As a high-score chasing game, it makes sense for Mini Motorways to always trend towards entropy. The game is trying to work towards an ultimate terminus. For the city-building architect in me, however, it is a maddening challenge. The game's AI, an incomprehensible Lovecraftian entity I am in constant combat with. The more you try to wrestle the city into some form of sensible design, the more it will resist you. But that incomprehensibility is part of the fun, and while it might sometimes be frustratingly difficult to grasp the finer intricacies of Mini Motorways, it is still intensely engaging to wrestle against them. My one true complaint about Mini Motorways is that I wish it made it more obvious when new buildings have popped up on the board. Even with a minimalist art style, this game is immensely busy to look at, and I semi-regularly lose games not because I made an inefficient road network, but because a new building popped up 2 minutes ago and I just never connected it to a road until a big red pop-up appeared to inform me I had exactly 30 seconds to fix the problem. All in all, it's a relatively minor issue, and it's one I've slowly trained myself not to fall into, but it can still be a disappointing way to lose a game. But that one complaint aside, Mini Motorways has been an all-around exceptional little puzzle experience. Definitely go give it a look. Silicon Dreams. No matter where you go to read about Silicon Dreams, you'll find another famous name in the opening few sentences: Blade Runner. Silicon Dreams is all about taking that universe's infamous Voight-Kampff machine, an interrogation device for discovering androids hiding in plain sight, and spinning up an entire game around the concept. But that's just the starting point. Silicon Dreams takes that idea and runs with it, painting a horrific dystopia where the Voight-Kampff is less used to catch skin-wearing androids and more as an enforcement tool to be wielded as a cudgel against common, everyday people. Silicon Dreams is successful on several levels. Its script is phenomenal, unraveling each interrogation secrets both makes for some great little puzzles as well as some genuinely surprising twists, and its music choices are particularly effective for capturing the mood for the game. But its greatest triumph by far is the way the game plays with the universe it's set up. It does not matter which scenario you are put into. You will analyze AI programs, actual humans, and common household service bots alike, but every single time, the needs of these victims, and the people in the chair are almost always victims of the system, misalign with the corporation you work for. Silicon Dreams comes up with some pretty compelling and inventive tearjerkers to play on your sympathies with. One particular one featured a robot that was indeed wildly malfunctioning, but almost entirely due to user error. Give this person another robot, and that one will malfunction just as surely as the current one has under her abuse. But you're a cog in a corporate machine, and that machine cares so little for you and your interviewees that you can straight up lie in your report, with documented evidence in the transcript directly contradicting your verdict, and no one will even notice because nobody bothers to read it. All they care about are the results. You are a judge of a sham court with the verdicts already dictated by those above you, and it's your job to find the evidence to justify it more than to find the truth or do what's best for the person you're interrogating. That case I just mentioned with the malfunctioning robot, you're never given any space to explain the underlying causes of why the machine is malfunctioning and the situation is broken down. All the company cares about is whether it is. Check yes or no. And you, in the middle, have your own motives and concerns to worry about. Don't play your role properly, then regardless of the truth, you'll be the one in the interrogation chair. But maybe, just maybe, there's enough wiggle room for you to play with the truth yourself, to find ways to weigh and color the evidence in the victim's favor. Avoid questions that are better left unasked because they might paint your subject in a poor light, and enact your own vision of justice. There's a lot to consider, and it's never possible to make everyone happy. And even after you've weighed all these decisions, the moment you put out your recommendation, the case is entirely out of your hands. I recommended one android to be reprogrammed, only to get a report saying, "Too bad, so sad, fixing it didn't work, and it was destroyed." And that android that was malfunctioning because of its owner's abuse, I released it back into the world, seeing nothing wrong with it and wishing it well, only for its owner to loudly disagree. That one ended up in a trash pile too. You put all of this together, and you get an immensely compelling corporate dystopia to maneuver through. It's tortuous, unfair, inhumane, and wildly out of your control. Even as someone whose job ostensibly is to decide the fates of these other robots, often you don't even get to do that much. But it is immensely gripping to try and navigate this thoroughly broken system, whether you buck against it in full revolt, or try to figure out how to appease it to scrape by. Silicon Dreams is a masterful little game. Severed Steel. Like John Woo action movies? Dig Max Payne? Then you're gonna love Severed Steel. Much to my delight, there are a bajillion indie shooters out there today pushing the envelope of fast, stylish gameplay, and right now, Severed Steel's got the spotlight. Severed Steel falls into the same lineage as games like Superhot and Get to the Orange Door, focusing on capturing that action movie feel by pitting your glass cannon protagonists against waves after waves of big dudes with bigger guns. And a lot like Superhot, your primary tool to pull it off is rampant use of the slow-mo button, which you pretty much can't play the game without. Being in slow-mo makes you pretty much invincible, but you have to chain together sick tricks like wall running, ground slides, and even an action movie dive to keep it running. You can get up to some pretty crazy antics with it, shooting a half dozen guys as you slide right past them, or even flipping upside down and shooting a guy in the back right after you jump over him. It's great at capturing that movie magic in a way that very few games do. It's not perfect though. The controls are a little loose, it's surprisingly cumbersome to get any verticality whatsoever, and the game's mobility system is far too easy to abuse. You can go on a brain-dead march through the entire game doing nothing but mashing the dive button repeatedly, and there are a few too many wide-open rooms where it's the only real option. The onus is mostly on the player to purposely seek out other tools outside of this one button to try and make their experience as fun and stylish looking as possible, but the game itself will never push you to do it. Overall, the game is primarily about flash and style over substance, but when the style is this good, it really doesn't matter, especially in such a short game. You'll be in and out of Severed Steel long before its simple setup starts to wear, and the journey through it is pretty thrilling. Shark Riders. Shark Riders is basically a short story in video game form, and the game's creators, who created the term pixel pulp to describe their work, seem to know it. Particularly, Shark Riders leans on the pulp half of that term, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a callback to an older era of fiction storytelling that ran the full gamut from mystery and horror stories to Flash Gordon. The only real rules for pulp fiction were that they almost always had a heavy genre bent, and they were relatively disposable. Effortless to pick up, fun to flip through, but not about to change your outlook on life once you put them down. And Shark Riders, a 20-minute story following two tribesmen as they complete a ritual to crown the next tribe's chief by riding a freaking shark, fits that tradition perfectly. Sure, it's not going to revolutionize your opinions on video games, but it puts you right into the action, does an excellent job pacing itself, and admittedly, the concept is metal as hell. It's a dope little adventure to run through with some strong, if perhaps archetypal, characterization. And then there's the other half of the game's self-declared genre, the pixel part. If you haven't noticed yet, Shark Riders is a very visually striking game. Developed to look like a ZX Spectrum game, its limited color palette is used to incredibly dramatic effect that only heightens the already gritty, pulpy narrative on offer. It looks great on its own, but it pairs even better with everything else Shark Riders is doing. This is basically a game jam proof of concept for the company's next title, Mothman, and will only keep you entertained for about 30 minutes, but it's also free and rad as heck. Give it a look. Wavebreak, Skatebird, and the Ramp. The skateboarding genre's been going through a few lean years. Despite plenty of people's fondness for the genre, for some reason we're lucky to get one title a year. But here in 2021, that changed. If you're a fan of this genre, the floodgates have suddenly opened. This was the summer of the skateboarder. This sudden flood might just be the nostalgia cycle coming full circle, or it could be a highly complex confluence of factors such as AAA development growing exponentially more costly thanks to ballooning visual fidelity and the need to make everything 200 hours long so you keep playing it forever, and thus abandoning niche but still successful genres like this as they race to make another open-world wankfest that can pack with microtransactions, while more budget-friendly indies that can actually sell less than 1 million copies and still turn a profit are left holding the bag to keep these more colorful genres alive. As the people that grew up playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater suddenly have their own companies and can make whatever the heck they want now. It's probably just nostalgia. But regardless of what it is, I think it's the coolest thing that this genre is being kept alive thanks to smaller developers, and they absolutely deserve your attention. Of the three, Skatebird is the most familiar. It's the classic Tony Hawk experience played entirely straight. Its only real twist on the formula is that you're a cute and quirky bird, and with the shrunken scale, instead of grinding through a warehouse, you're doing sick tricks off a magazine on some guy's desk in places like bedrooms and office spaces. If you like Tony Hawk, you'll like Skatebird, and that's about all you need to know. If you don't, well, the birds are cute as heck, they get into all kinds of silly shenanigans, and you get to do a heckin' scrim anytime you want. Maybe the game's unique flavor will do something for you. It was certainly fun for me, and because of its little narrative twist, levels have a surprising amount of verticality, with entire mini skate parks stacked on top of each other as you transfer from the floor to a bed or desk or hanging server. On rare occasion, this leads to some truly miserable and infuriating design with some of its missions. I swear, if I ever have to screw around in one of these suitcase death traps again, I'm gonna lose it. But other times, it leads to some really inventive ways to pass from area to area, primarily in how the game implements grinding rails, like electric wires or computer cords, to transition between entirely different platforms. And once you're done with the occasional dud mission, all that's left is the freeform screw around on the skate parks, and that part of the experience is great. Wavebreak, meanwhile, asks what if you took that classic formula and added guns to it? And, you know, jet skis and 80s synthwave action movie theming. This game is friggin' bonkers. It's also the least chill of these three games by a landslide. As someone who is incredibly bad at skateboard games, I'll be entirely honest, I flat out did not have a good time with Wavebreak. This game is even more impenetrable than its forebears, is utterly uncompromising if you can't figure out what it wants from you, and never mind completing the game's many objectives, I struggle just to successfully navigate around its maps, which seem to assume that you'll just perpetually grind literally everywhere on them. And man, I am just not good enough to do that. This is a game for hardcore Tony Hawk fans that already know what they're doing and want more after they're done with the new remake. Even finishing the other two games first wasn't enough to get me to the starting line for Wavebreak, and if you're not one of those hardcore fans, you're gonna ricochet right off of this one, and its impeccable vibes will not save it for you. But if you are an experienced fan and are looking for more Tony Hawk goodness, Wavebreak is probably exactly what you're looking for and will start right at a comfortable level. And in that sense, it's still a good game. Just not a game made for me. But we saved the best for last. The ramp is simultaneously the most grounded and abstracted. It is the most approachable by virtue of being so basic, and yet was also one of the most satisfying in its single-minded focus. Where a lot of other skating games going all the way back to the start of the genre like to get a little fanciful, letting you pull a sick grind in elaborate strip malls and government complexes alike, the ramp keeps it clean, simple, and mostly grounded to reality, with straightforward maps that only barely get more complicated than a single humble halfpipe. But once you start actually moving around on them, the gameplay abstractions begin. No need to bother worrying about the little details like keeping your balance on a grind or making sure you don't accidentally come down sideways because you jumped off a ramp at an awkward angle. The ramp handles all of that for you. So you have the exact reverse of how a lot of skating games set themselves up, with grounded and realistic skate parks and incredibly breezy, untechnical gameplay. And both of these design decisions are targeted towards a single goal. There is no high score chasing, no having to hunt down random letters to spell a word, no distractions from the game's very simple core loop. It's just you and the simple joy of skateboarding. Just vibe out and pull off some sick tricks, dude. And it's dope as heck. It knows exactly what it wants to be and executes perfectly on that idea. It feels amazing to play moment to moment, and it's immensely satisfying to go back to that first level after messing around on the more complicated ones and absolutely shred that halfpipe to pieces. All in all, great time. So that's everything I've got this time, but by the way, I've got a Patreon. If you enjoyed the video enough to get all the way here, you should go throw money at it. But thank you for watching all the way through. I hope you enjoyed this quarterly wrap-up, and I'll see you all next time.